What are your views on that kind of stuff right now? I know that's like a touchy subject. If you want to avoid it, we can. But like I've brought it up in a lot of different podcasts recently because I think it's a subject that we're talking about a lot, and I think people want there to just be a black and white answer, but there isn't.
In terms of the abortion?
Just in terms, just like in terms of a lot of things, like, there's, it's easy to compartmentalize, like, abortion, bad, or abortion, good. And it's like, well, sometimes it's bad and sometimes it's like good, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like sometimes it's necessary and then sometimes it's like, you know what I mean? Like the really late ones, like not cool or whatever. But like, what is your opinion on like what's going on?
Yeah, so I try not to get political on like any of my social media stuff or anything like that, because obviously like, everyone's entitled to their opinion. But this was something like I was very vocal about when like all the abortion stuff, especially being in Georgia, when all of that passed, because like I focus on women's health and this affects women's health. So I have lots of issues with it. So that's...
With the bill or with abortion?
With the bill. Yeah, let's be clear. With the bill. So specifically like being the Georgia one being like the 6-week thing, like most women don't even know they're pregnant until 6 weeks. Like your period can be late 1 month. That's like not a great... It could be late and everything could be fine, like for the most part. Like maybe you got stressed out, or like if you're on an antibiotic, like your period.
But basically, the law was that you can't have an abortion after 6 weeks, but most women don't even understand.
Yes, that they're even pregnant at that point.
Yeah.
So I have issues with that because I think it comes down to like if you don't want an abortion, don't have one, but like don't affect someone else's decision on like how that might affect their life. And, that comes back to the argument of, like, well, they can go into, like, they can go into adoption or, like, the foster care system. And it's like, wow, don't even get into, like, how fucked up that is.
Yeah, it's like, okay, if you're really going to advocate for that, like, you go adopt some foster kids.
Are you out there adopting children? Are you going to take this kid in?
Yeah. It's like, we got enough babies as it's kind of like the whole argument against, like, shelter dogs versus, like, breeding dogs. It's like, why are we literally breeding dogs when there's so many dogs without homes? It's like, well, some people want, this specific dog or whatever. Right. Like, who am I to say what dog you want to adopt or whatever? Just don't buy one. Right. Yeah, exactly. But I the same thing can kind of be said about humans. I think the main argument, it typically, I think it's from a lot of religious stuff, but also it's because people have the view that you're murdering a baby, and at the end of the day, we shouldn't be allowed to kill babies. And they're also kind of like, well, if you didn't want to have a kid, then why'd you get cummed in? Why'd you and like literally, that's like kind of the thing. It's like, well, if you didn't want to have a kid in the first place, you're not ready, then why are you letting strange men stick the penis in you? You know what I mean? Like that's literally like that's kind of the like underlying tone of it all. So I mean, like, but at the end of the day, it's like no one's saying that. It's all a women's issue because at the end of the day, the baby grows in the woman's body. Like, it's not a men's issue because, But yeah, so keep going, though. You're kind of saying, like, you were very vocal on it about the 6-week thing.
Yeah, I just didn't like that. Like, I think, it should be a healthcare right. I mean, that's just my opinion, and some people are going to disagree with that. But, like, I think that's a healthcare right because, like I said...
When do you think it's fucked up to, like, if it's like, it could be... If it's viable outside the womb, it's kind of like...
I think that is between a woman and her doctor.
Yeah.
That's where I stand on that.
Yeah.
Because like again, like I don't know the circumstances or like what that person's going through.
It's always messy, yeah.
So it's hard for me to say like I could say like I don't even know what I would do in like a certain situation like that. Because like then you come down to situations of like it's a choice between mother and baby or like things like that. And so, like, that's a very personal thing.
Do you think that the man should have a say? Like, if the woman wants to have the abortion, the guy doesn't? Like, does he have a right to that? Because it's in your body, but he also, like, half made it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. I can't say, like, ideally, like, sure, it would be a nice mutual conversation that you're making together, but, like, not every relationship is like that.
Yeah, definitely not. Especially, I mean... Again, the extreme case that's always brought up is in the case of rape. Like, if you're raped and you get pregnant, like, as an extremely unfortunate situation, obviously. Right. And, like, I don't think anyone is, wanting any of that to happen. Like, no one's, like, wishing that upon anybody. Right. But, again, it is a small percentage of the abortions that do happen.
Right.
So it's, like, it's kind of an outlier.
Well, like, women aren't, like, out getting abortions for fun all willy-nilly. Like, I think I'm going to go get an abortion today. Happy Saturday, guys.
Yeah.
Like, that's... If anyone's emotionally connected to this, it's the woman. Like, way more than the man is ever going to be. So, like, it's happening in your body. It's, like, affecting your system. So I think at the end of the day, like, that is her decision. And like if she wants to include her partner in it, that's her choice. But she's going to be way more emotionally connected than anyone else is ever going to be. And like she's going to know whether it's like a safe situation. Like your motherly instinct is going to kick in there and be like, she doesn't want to do it for fun. She's not out there. Like that's going to be the hardest decision anyone's ever going to make.
Yeah, and it's totally life-changing. Yeah, right. That's the main thing that I think that I can really get behind is the idea that if you're not ready to bring a kid into the world, like we should not be forcing anybody.
Right.
On the same flip side of the token, if you're, really not ready to have a kid and you're, out having unprotected sex all the time, making babies in you all the time, like that's probably not the best idea either.
Definitely are like, there are birth control options that don't have to affect your hormones, but also you don't have to have a kid.
Yeah, exactly.
There's that in between.
Yeah, I heard an interesting argument too about, I think it was on Sam Harris's podcast where this guy, he was like it's like anti-natalism or something like that, where you basically, his premise is like, it's fucked up to have a kid because kids didn't ask for this and life is hard. Like basically that's his whole premise is like, life is hard. From the moment you're born, life is hard, and no one asked for this, and you have to work, and you have to, like, just to stay fucking alive, you've got to, like, work, and your body's gonna break down, and eventually you're gonna die, which sucks. Like, right. So basically, inherently, life is fucked up to, like, he's like, I'd rather be not ever born than be here, because if I was never born, I would never know, and I would be nothing.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of that idea of like when in that baby's life cycle, and in his, I think he even made the argument that it would be okay to like again, this is not my views. This guy was saying like it might be okay for you to kill a baby even after it was born, which is like seems really weird.
I feel like that point is like,
but it's also kind of like the factory farm thing where it's kind of like, it's a subject we don't like to say or talk about, like that we're like killing these animals and keeping them in like captivity and being really cruel to them and then eventually eating them. But it's kind of like the same thing with like abortion in some ways, because like if it's inside the body still, it's like fine because it's like it hasn't come out yet. But then as soon as it comes out, we're like fuck. Now I see it. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say, but also it's like no
one's arguing for the external abortions. I'm just saying in that extreme example.
Line. No one's calling.
Yeah. Again, these are not my thoughts, but again, let's take it to the extreme. Let's take this thought experiment all the way to the next level. It's kind of like what's the difference between 1 or 2 days out the womb versus those. Whatever. What is the difference? What is the real difference?
Again, I don't think like anyone's like choosing to have abortions like late in the game. You know what I mean? No one's like, I carried it for 7 months and I just decided
that's true.
I'm not gonna do it. Like no one's choosing that. So if that's happening, it's happening for like a very extreme reason. And if someone is choosing that, like she's gonna have I would argue probably a good reason for that. So that would be my perspective on it. It's like no woman is like ideally like she's like I think like my life plan is like I'm gonna get an abortion and then I'm gonna like that's not there.
I agree. Yeah, and again I'm playing devil's advocate on a lot of this stuff too, and also I think it's healthy to have like try to take thought experiments down the full road, take it to the extreme, because that's eventually where it's gonna go, because as soon as you give people an inch they're gonna take a mile, right? Same thing with a lot of different laws. It's like you have to we're not necessarily making this for the exception, we're making for the rule or whatever. I don't know if I said that the right way, but you get what I'm saying. It's like if you give people a certain thing, there's no way we can believe that people aren't going to take advantage of a situation. You know what I mean? Like if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile sort of deal.